In this video, I'm gonna go over 5 keys that help me transform my own life. I've said this before, but I can't even relate to like 1% of how I used to think 3 or 4 years ago. So these 5 things will help you do exactly the same with your life. If you apply these, then trust me, you won't be able to recognize your own life in like a year from now. So I actually mentioned this before, and one thing that's huge when it comes to transforming your own life and expanding your own life is to stop listening to your own thoughts. And this was actually what made me go to Australia in the first place, because I mentioned in my last video about my spiritual awakening that when I detached sort of from my thoughts and I became aware of all my fears and everything. And traveling by myself was definitely one of those things, and I wouldn't have been able to have done that if I wouldn't have stop believing in everything that I'm thinking. So for example, if my mind was telling me to stay in my own comfort zone and keep working on my same job and do all those things that I was used to, then I decided to quit my job. I decided to move away. I decided to do something. And that was actually what triggered this sort of intuitive insight that I wanted to travel to Australia. When I traveled here, I sold all my stuff, canceled my apartment, and I just left by myself. And if I would to trust my thoughts when I did that, I would never have gone, ever. And I would just have stayed in my comfort zone and I wouldn't have challenged myself. Because your thoughts are always going to come up with excuses to why you should not do the things. And your mind is always trying to talk you out of like facing your own fears and going after your dreams. And if you're actually able to see it this way, then I think it's going to be easier for you to stop listening to your thoughts and stop identifying with like the catastrophical images that your mind is projecting on you. Because when you stand before a great challenge, then your mind is going to create images of like the worst case scenario, and if you decide to believe in those things, then you're going to stay in your comfort zone for the rest of your life. So I highly recommend stop believing in your own thoughts. It's not the truth. I have to say that I should be coming down here more often because this place is amazing, especially during low tide. Makes me a little bit sad though that the sunrise is so early now. Like I really have to get up at 4:30 and like really throw myself into the car and just drive here. Because I think the sunrise is at like 4:30 at the earliest in the summer. And 4:30 is normally when I get up. But might be worth it though. I've never seen a summer sunrise here. The sunrise is in winter though. It's like pink, purple, reddish sort of colors then. And now it's just this. Not that I'm complaining, this is pretty spectacular as well though. But I'm gonna miss this. So the second thing actually goes hand in hand with the first thing a little bit, and I also mentioned this in the first step, but it is to actually face your own fears, because when you face your own fears, you're gonna start building up belief in yourself, and when you start building up belief in yourself, that creates self-trust. When you create self-trust, you create self-worth. When you create self-worth, you create self-love. Self-love is, in my opinion, one of the most important things you can do in life, because if you're not happy with yourself, then you're not going to be happy with life. Money can't buy self-worth, money can't buy self-confidence, money can't buy self-love. You actually have to develop that within yourself, and by facing your fears, you're gonna accomplish things, and when you accomplish things, you're gonna boost that sort of self-worth, which is gonna build all those things. And when you do that, you're also gonna create discipline within yourself. And I believe that like a lot of depression and a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of things like that, a lot of mental health issues can actually be cured by just facing your own fears and start believing in yourself a little bit more. So if I wouldn't have faced my own fears, I wouldn't have been in Australia now. I wouldn't make videos right now because I've been scared of making videos. I've been scared of being outside talking to the camera. So I had to learn all those things, but all those things were like super uncomfortable and very unpleasant to do. But I did it anyway because I noticed that the reward is going to be so much greater when you actually feel accomplished with yourself. And that's actually why I preach so much about facing your own fears as well, because it's cured my sort of depression, it's cured my anxiety, it's cured everything in my life, and I've built up a sort of self-love in myself that I wouldn't have dreamed of like a few years ago. You're also going to realize that the universe placed your dreams beyond absolute fear. So if you think about your dreams and your goals, for example, it probably means that you have to face something that you're uncomfortable with. So realize that, approach your fears, and you'll meet your dreams and your goals on the other side of that. So I actually recently discovered that putting salt into your oats makes it so much better. It like enhances the flavors in such a way that I can't believe I haven't done this before. So if you're eating oatmeal for breakfast, add some salt. It's gonna revolutionize this. Oats, peanut butter, blueberries, banana, cinnamon, almond milk, salt, obviously. And for protein powder, I go with vanilla protein powder. All right. The salt, game changer. The third key to transforming your life would be to start eating healthy. And by healthy, I don't mean that you should start restricting yourself or start counting calories or whatever. If you want to start counting calories, that's going to teach you a lot of stuff about nutrition, but you don't have to do that to start eating healthy, actually. A few years ago, I had massive issues with my stomach and my digestive system, and I was just in so much pain all the time. And it was because I had so much sugar, so much like candy, stuff like that, chocolate. But I also had like crappy food, takeout, too much fat, saturated fats, and too less fiber and too less whole foods, basically. So one of the obvious things that actually started my weight loss journey and after my spiritual awakening that I mentioned in the last video was me starting to getting more conscious about what I put into my body. And trust me, like when you're in a rut, when you eat unhealthy, when you eat a lot of takeout, you're not gonna notice your energy being low, but when you actually start eating healthy, you're gonna notice your energy and your like everyday mood in life is gonna be so much better. So that's actually one of the best things I've done in my life, is to start like neglecting all the crappy foods. So if you want to start living up to your full potential, start eating healthy, because if you imagine yourself living the best life possible, I think that having pizza or takeout or things like that like 4 or 5 times a week, it's not probably gonna be a part of that life. So visualize your highest self. What is that a version of you doing? Is it eating like crappy food, or is it eating like oats, for example, for breakfast? So start visualizing that, start eating healthy, and you're gonna start seeing your life changing in the best way possible. So I just want to show you my backyard a little bit. It's not much, but we have some greenery around, which is quite nice. One thing that's a little bit annoying though is that the birds usually wake me up at like 4 every morning, but I get up at 4:30 anyway, so that's fine. But yeah, it's I enjoy having nature around, because I've been living like around like big roads and stuff like that. So it's good to have a little bit of silence, except for the birds. But the birds are nice. I like them. Got some more beautiful nature around. And coming over to this side, and here we just have some more flowers and stuff. But yeah, I like this. It's extremely beautiful, and also you see the sun coming through right there. I gotta say that this is the best place that I've lived in ever since coming to Australia, except for maybe the hostel in the beginning. I mean, it's a different vibe. I do miss Melbourne, and I do miss the people and everybody that I used to live with in the hostel, because it was such an amazing experience, like having to share rooms with people and having to share basically everything. Like, it definitely puts you outside of your comfort zone, and like I think a lot of people tend to avoid hostels and stuff like that, but if you're going to travel, trust me, you want to live in a hostel, because you want that experience, and you're gonna meet people that you would never ever talk to otherwise. And yeah, it was just an amazing experience that I wish that everybody wanted to try once. But it also means that you have to face your fears and get outside your comfort zone, because it's definitely gonna put you in a little bit of discomfort checking into a hostel the first time, but the reward is going to be so much better than actually going to a hotel living by yourself. Alright, so done at work for another 6 hours or so. I had a client at 9, next client is at 3:30. Perks of being your own boss: you can schedule whatever you want to do during the day. So right now I'm actually out for a little hike, because it is my resting day today, but I always want to plan in for something that's going to keep me active. So I'll always try and get like 10 to 12,000 steps in a day. Sometimes less, sometimes more. But if I can get like an average of like 10 to 12,000, that makes me pretty happy. So like 10,000 of my steps is around 10 kilometers, I reckon, something like that. And I feel like that's a pretty good standard to have for yourself every day. I've been meaning to do a hike for a long time actually, but I haven't been able to seem to get my ass out and do it. So now it's the first time in a long time that I'm gonna do a hike, and it's quite of an easy hike. They have like stairs and stuff, so it's not gonna be anything super complicated. And I feel like it's gonna be a good little one for a good resting day, because I did my legs yesterday, so I'm a little bit sore actually. But yeah, I'm excited for this. Wait until you see the top here. The views here are pretty crazy. And I'm gonna show you a good little cinematic. I did bring my drone as well, so stay tuned for the top. Not gonna lie, it's pretty warm for a hike today, but at least I get my steps in. And I get to climb as well, which I love doing. Like, the thing with feeling good in life, I feel like, is just a matter of getting back to what you used to love doing as a kid. And I used to love being adventurous. I used to love climbing stuff. And I was extremely wild as a kid. And that made me feel good. And one of the big things in my life is to be adventurous, or to explore new ideas, explore new stuff, and I guess have a little bit of excitement, meaning that I don't necessarily like to have a secure lifestyle. So being adventurous for me is huge for my own well-being. But it's all about like finding out what makes you tick and what makes you happy in life. And what makes me happy in life, even though it's a bit warm today, is doing stuff like this. Challenging myself, even though this is not the most challenging thing I've ever done, but compared to sitting by the computer playing video games, this is somewhat challenging. I can admit that. So the fourth key to transform your life is pretty obvious to me, because I work as a personal trainer. And it's also pretty obvious because I did this hike today on my resting day. But I do think that everybody should stay active, physically active. We have a place in our head called the hippocampus, which stores memories, and it regulates emotions and stuff like that. And after, I think we're 25, then the hippocampus shrinks with 1% per year. And they did a study and they tried that, and they had two testing groups. One group, they did no physical activity at all. And they had one group that did 30 minutes of physical activity 3 times a week. And instead of having the hippocampus shrinking, the physically active group, they actually grew their hippocampus with 2% per year instead of shrinking with 1% per year. So just by going for basic walks and doing something that's like low intensity, that's actually going to help keep you away from like getting sort of like brain disease and stuff like that. Also, there's a reason why we have happy hormones in our body. We have dopamine, we have serotonin, we have endorphin, and we have oxytocin. And all those happy hormones are released when we do things, obviously, that makes us feel good, but there's a reason why we release happy hormones when we do physical activity, because we're designed to move. We're designed to move around, and that's how we survived back in the day. I mean, we used to be hunters and gatherers. If we wouldn't move, then we would die. We have a thing called runner's high, and we release endorphins in our brain when we run. We do have runner's high in our bodies just for us to being able to outrun something if something is chasing us, or if we were to outrun something to get food. I've never experienced that, but when you experience runner's high, it's like supposed to be like the best thing you've ever felt in your life. And you can just keep running forever, it feels like. If you're depressed and if you sit a lot by the computer and you basically have no physical activity going, and that has made you depressed, try and do the opposite. Try and actually start going out for walks and doing stuff like that, because it might be terrifying or it might be scary to do so at first, but face your fears. That's the lesson of this video as well. But you're gonna notice that if you start doing the opposite of what your mind is telling you, then you're gonna start living a much more happier life. And if you're used to being still, try move around a little bit and get your ass moving, because it's gonna make you feel so much better. So the fifth key, and one of the biggest ones to transforming your life, and this sort of goes hand in hand with all of the other 4 keys that I've been talking about today, and that is to stay committed to your word. And that means to stop telling lies. Stop telling lies to yourself and stop telling lies to other people. Because if you can't trust yourself, how are you supposed to trust other people? And how are people supposed to trust you? So actually the biggest thing that you can do is to follow through on everything that you promise yourself and everybody around you. Start doing things that you say that you're gonna do, or stop saying that you're gonna do things that which you know that you're never gonna do. So say for example that you commit to yourself that you want to start training. Okay, so when you say to yourself that you want to start training, you probably feel pretty motivated and inspired to do so. But the motivation and inspiration is always gonna come and go. So the most important thing is to remember how it felt when you were most motivated and most inspired, and follow through on that anyway, because otherwise you're going to break the promise you made to yourself, and that's going to lower your self-worth. So the most important thing is to keep the promises to yourself even when you're not inspired or motivated to do so. And that's huge, because if you can do that, that builds discipline. And if you have discipline, you have everything that I just told you about self-trust, self-worth, self-love. Discipline involves all of those three things together. If you can nail that, then you're taking a big step into the right direction. I think that's gonna be a wrap of this video today. I really hope that you liked this video as much as I did making it. If you did, give it a thumbs up, comment and subscribe if you haven't already. And until I'm back for the next video, live a life of purpose.